Chapter 16, verses 21 through 23. Jesus began to explain to the disciples that he must go to Jerusalem to suffer many things at the hands of the elders, chief priests, and religious scholars, and that he must be killed and on the third day raised to life. Peter took him aside and began to rebuke him. "Never, Rabbi," he said, "this will never happen to you." Jesus turned to Peter and said, "Get yourself behind me, Satan. You are trying to make me stumble and fall. You're setting your mind not on the things of God, but of mortals."
I made the trek from Chicago to Green Lake, Wisconsin. The occasion was for a dedication of a marker. It was early spring, the snow had just melted, and it seemed to many a suitable time. And so when it came time to dedicate the marker, being outside, I knew the ground was a bit wet. I could feel it seeping in through the seams of the bottom of my shoes. But as I prayed, as I was nearing the end, I felt the water and mud seeping in from the top of my shoe. I was a bit stuck. And as I worked to get out of the muck, one shoe decided it wanted to stay. And as I awkwardly worked up and around, I got the shoe out, but without my heel being inside of it. Have you ever been stuck? It's not the most exciting feeling for you. Perhaps it's a bit frightening. Perhaps you're wondering, how did I get myself into such a predicament? There's many situations in our lives and in the world where sometimes we get stuck. We get stuck in what we have done. Sometimes it's how we have done it. Sometimes we get stuck in traditions that have meant well and that need to be sometimes reimagined. Today, we encounter a text that, as one of the commentators said, that most pastors stay away from, stating that most preachers do not want to talk about the phrase of Jesus rebuking Peter, saying, "Get behind me, Satan." But if we think about it, it's not so much Jesus calling Peter Satan. Perhaps it's calling out those things that hold us back. For you see, Peter is like us. Who among us would willingly walk into a situation where we are not welcome? Walk into a situation where someone or others may have other plans for us that we do not wish to engage. We go another direction. Sometimes it may be from a job that we've had and we know that we must move on for our own well-being. Sometimes we get stuck. Now, being stuck is quite easy at times because there is routine in it. You know what to do, you know how to manage. But the thing is, Jesus is telling his friend Peter to refocus. I imagine that perhaps Peter rightly calls Jesus Messiah, but he has the wrong understanding of what Messiah might be. Perhaps, like many of the oppressed Jewish people of the time. They are tired of the Romans having their thumb pressing down on him. Perhaps that's what Peter imagines with Jesus, that Jesus is the Messiah that will lead them to a new day. But I imagine if Peter is paying attention to what Jesus has said up till now, that the Messiah, as Jesus understands it, will change the world in ways that the world has not experienced always. That through humility and peace and the acceptance of others, that we can move on by being stuck in routines. Sometimes, even in our nation, it appears that sometimes we, as a people of the United States, we get stuck in our nationalistic hopes of what a world nation like ours should be like. We try to legislate it at times. This is what it means to be faithful. This is what it means to be American, and often, not printed, but the subtext is, this is what it means to be an American and Christian. We get stuck. For we want to hang on to those ideas of tradition, those ideas that our founders had. But sometimes when we go back and work through those things, we discover that even with the best intent, our founders, our families have sometimes harbored ideas that have held others back, that kept people in their place. So Jesus turns to Peter, saying, "Get behind me. You're holding me back." Perhaps that's our call as a church and as individuals, as people of God who want to make a difference, is we have to turn and put behind us what has held us back, even if it's comfortable, and to step forward and putting our minds and lives in the care of God and not mortals. Amen.